welcome, Frederik. Welcome to Kasper and Kasper. Kasper and Kasper show. I've really been looking forward to our talk today. We met each other when you were at Telmo. You're at TV2 now, but I'm going to let you do your own introduction. So you want to start with that?
Thank you so much, and likewise, I've also been looking forward to our small chat here. So I'm Frederik Scholten, and I work as the CMO or VP of marketing at TV2 Denmark. And TV2, for those who don't know, is sort of the largest commercial media in Denmark.
Nice. And the reason why I thought it could be interesting to have you on the show is because of the results you've had at Telmo, and also just to get like a CMO perspective on what your plan is when you enter a new company as a CMO. You know, do you have a fixed 90-day plan, or how do you go around that?
That's a good question, and I actually think that it's important to maybe take a step back from that, because before you dive into all of your your Michael Watkins 90-day planning and stuff, it's for CMO, it's important to reflect a bit on what is actually your role. So the role of the CMO is actually quite important to look at. From my perspective, there's also a lot of theory around that, but I actually often look at the words from Henry Mintzberg, which is looking at the CMO as the liaison, as the communicator and the orchestrator of the company. So if you take that perspective in and think about, okay, so my role is really to orchestrate and to communicate across the company, then from that on, I can make a plan for how to then engage with that company. And obviously, you need to, when you look at you are the orchestrator and the connector in the company, then I need to learn the people, to get to know the people. I need to learn the business. I need to learn the customers' thoughts, actions, behaviors. So there's a lot of investment in actually getting to understand the company from the inside. So listening to customers and really being humble in that phase, where you try to sort of park your own point of views. You will always have those point of views, and you can always get back to those. But take that time when you start in the new company to listen, because there are so many good reasons why things are as they are. You always know that also when you buy a new house, you always get that good advice. So wait a bit before you establish your new lawn or you cut down the trees, because there's actually a good reason why things are as they are, and then you can go about transforming and implementing your vision for the company. So the first 90 days, as a big chunk of that, is really learning the culture, listening to the people.
Okay. Yeah. And how do you best go around that? Is that scheduling meetings with all the different stakeholders internally, or
Yeah, and of course, yes. So that goes into your 90-day planning. That's your job to map out who I deem the most relevant and important stakeholders. But also, again, looking at my role as the connector, what pieces of the puzzle am I then connecting?
Yeah.
What pieces are most crucial for me to learn, to get to know better? And what areas am I maybe not that comfortable in from the get-go? Are there areas that I'm not fully, where I don't have all the mileage and all that experience? Then maybe that's a good area for me to then actually invest time in understanding. So if I come from a company where we don't have customer service or that aspect, that is a pretty good aspect for me to get to know that customer service department and listening to the customers, and so forth.
Interesting. And in this, we talked on previous episodes a lot about what we call the data wars, which is like more a communication thing. Like, how do you communicate marketing goals towards customer goals, towards decision maker or top management goals? Can you talk a bit about, now you talk both to customers, you talk to internal teams, and you talk to top management, I guess. Can you talk a bit about how the conversations are different, and how you can mitigate some of these things if you do?
So let me just understand your question correctly. So actually, I would say being one of the most predominantly cross-functional or cross-organizational voices, it's really important to know how you articulate value and the value creation in the company. So that comes also from understanding the business, obviously, but learning the various drivers for business impact in the company, the interplay between those drivers. It's rarely just one driver that drives everything. So it's a mix, and your responsibility as a CMO is to orchestrate and to maybe also act like the conductor of many of those drivers. So some you have more or less full control over, and a lot you will just be sort of a stakeholder yourself in.
Yeah.
So you need to navigate and build on the trust that you've been investing in from the get-go.
Yeah.
And once you have that trust and you have the understanding of how drivers are connecting to each other, and then you are more able, I would say, than else to articulate how do we go about having one unified goal setting? How do we go about having one point of view on how value is actually created? So you can tie your activities into that. So it's really about unifying and simplifying how you go about looking at value creation.
Yeah. Is it sometimes a surprise how various stakeholders look at value creation?
Of course it is.
Yeah.
And the maturity of companies vary a lot. So the self-reflection of how I as a department, how am I actually delivering value to the company? So those aspects are very unique and very for each department can be very detached from the full view of how you are creating value. So I would say a goal for you as a CMO, and I think it's an established fact by now, so it's not just my opinion, but building on so many years of science and studies, think about how you can establish that econometric modeling aspect of how value is created. So you can try to remove the individual aspect of how one department feels like they are responsible for all value creation, and have that in a normalized view. So you can actually see you are contributing, but you are contributing 10%. And 40% comes from that, and 30% comes from that, and we can shift the mechanics and the dynamics between, so we can leverage more from you and your deliverables, and that goes back to your role as the connector and the orchestrator, how to actually then really maximize the potential from departments. So taking that responsibility of being much more than the guy who is producing how we look and how we communicate emotions and USPs and product offerings to the market, then you are also really orchestrating the internal value drivers.
So how do you balance that long-term brand building with showing results in the short term, right? Because as a CMO, you can't wait 6, 9, or 12 months to actually show some value. So how do you balance that?
Yeah, and I think once again you need to rely on science. You need to rely on data, and you need to not just have a point of view. A point of view is nice when you have a vision, but when you are actually delivering results, you need to have evidence and science backing your everyday behavior. So I take tremendous insights, but also ways of working from just I think actually this month it's the 20-year anniversary of the Ehrenberg Bass Institute, and they have been really driving that evidence and science-backed approach to demonstrating how marketing and how brands grow. how you deliver value and how you must abide to some certain laws, and they are almost laws like laws of physics. So so many studies across the globe, and you always tend to fall back to 60% of your effort must be invested in building your long-term brand, and approximately 40% on an average scale should be utilized in actually sales activating that brand investment that you have. So if you look at it in that way, you can almost draw out, a schematic of how am I going about investing in emotions and aspects that move people and build the sales of tomorrow and build my impact of tomorrow, and how am I actually then also implementing structures that can grasp that value and activate it into sales. So almost making it a binary function, but having those rules of law or rules of thumb that help you tremendously in setting some clear goals and clear ambition, and also establishing that it's not just hints and allegations and maybe things that you feel, but it's actually science and evidence.
Yeah, cool. And we talked a little bit about this before we started recording, but TV2 just had the commercial with Mikkel Hansen for branding the cancer week that we have and shaving off his hair. What thoughts goes into a video like that? I think what TV2 has been really good at is playing with emotions, not just with Mikkel Hansen, but every time there's a topic that they take up, or their birthday, they're really good at playing on emotions on the videos. What are the thoughts behind that? Is that from a branding perspective that it's a decision, or is it because of the medium that you're using?
So there's no clear answer to that, but I would say that when we as a company want to make the biggest splash or the biggest impact on what actually then drives what you can say, quote unquote, our business. It is really all about what makes people want to lean in and get engaged with something as a public service, a commercial public service media. So we rely on creating that inclination to either press play on our subscription model, or pressing 2 on the remote control. But we really need to move people and emotion and evoking those emotions have proven for us to be by far the most effective way of connecting to our customers and our future customers. It builds such a long-lasting impact. So across the board, we really try to communicate with feelings rather than rational arguments, and that goes back to what we are then investing in our branding. So we are blessed with having so much content. Content is not the issue. No. The issue is how to twist and articulate that in the way that it actually makes you cannot resist wanting to see more, to engage more. That's really the trick. And then you can say then there are activities that are more in a public service space, because obviously we have trailers for specific shows. But when we are supporting movements such as the cancer stop cancer, or it could also be various other aspects. It could be election time. It could be so many other aspects of what makes an important message. It's not always the most salient message to communicate. So how do we then make that engaging? And we have such a talented group of creative strategists that can articulate that and really move people. So that is our branding, you could say, for commercial.
Now you mentioned the strategist. Communicating on emotion is also a brave choice. which you do really well. Can you talk a bit more about like what goes into it? Now you mentioned the strategist who obviously like you have a talented team around this. It must take some special superpowers to being able to communicate on emotion.
Yeah, I would say it also ties back to the value that you are also offering, because we are not like anybody else. So we are not the cheapest. We feel like we have the best content, and we have the content that you must not miss out on. So you can always go lower. You can always price erode and go lower in terms of quality. But our ambition is to respect the fact that we have such great, amazing content, and we respect the special role that we also have in the Danish society, where we feel like we are part of the critical democratic infrastructure. So we need to build that commitment, engagement, and we also from a subscription and activation point of view, we feel like, and we have proven that throughout many years of doing this, that sort of raising the bar in terms of what creativity means for your ability to have a price premium. That correlation is really well manifested in our sort of operating everyday operations. So it allows us just to be more efficient, and it allows our direct to consumer team to really leverage all of that impact that we are creating, all of the emotions that we are, spraying around the Danish consumer minds. That really makes for an attractive and very efficient sales funnel. So we have a sufficient amount of new customers coming on board all the time. So it's a clear link from brand creative, high quality, to also a really a thicker funnel, you could say.
So there's a direct link from going from the, like previously in between programs, it would be a lot about, can we get the consumer to laugh? Can we get, like, that was kind of the end goal. But the emotions here, you see a strong link to the customer side.
Definitely, but we also need to make people laugh. There's a balance to it, because we and laughter is the shortest, is the way to shorten the distance between people as well. So we really need to connect the country, and emotions are also laughter. So you need to orchestrate that as well.
That makes sense. But I mean, like you also moved it from it all being laughter to suddenly you sat there back between two programs and feeling emotional, like touched in some way, where you kind of almost had tears in your eyes, right? Sometimes with the messaging and stuff like that, which is
we see that as a strong grip in terms of performance, actually.
Yeah. Well done.
So if we go back to you joining as a CMO and moving into a new company, what considerations do you have when it comes to the tech? Obviously, that's my background, and we often work with brands where there's a new CMO coming in. Are you planning on, I know what tech works, what martech works, to replace it, or are you considering figuring out how to get the most out of what's currently in the company?
So yeah, great question, and definitely to the latter part of your question, the chances are that you are currently not utilizing the tech in a sufficient way as it is right now. So simply because modern tech can do so much, and there are so many use cases, so much potential that you have not utilized already. So before as the notion was before you start cutting down the trees in the backyard, take a look, figure out how you are actually utilizing the tech right now. How is that translated into the mission that you are on, the business that you are running? If you are not pivoting in a completely new direction with new market offerings or changing product lines, then the chances are that you can actually still rally around with the right people and having that as the focal point for you right now is actually getting the team and the work around that tech in place. So really try to respect the fact that 9 times out of 10 it's not the tech, it's the organization and the people that you really need to work on, and that's the hard part because it can be very tempting to just replace the tech and say, and now I'm going to make the change and tomorrow it's going to be better. You spend X amount of years and X amount of consulting times actually trying to onboard new tech and implement new tech, and things can actually also go wrong there. So get your people rallying around the best use cases and the best way of exploiting the tech that you already have, providing that you are in sort of prolonging the way that your business is running. But still, even from that, you can also have an ambitious vision of, if we want to see how can, and we've been talking about that, Kasper, earlier on, how can personalization be a driver for better retention or better sales or better customer experience? All those aspects can be sufficiently visionary and also be a game changer in how you are producing, communicating, and orchestrating, and that's still on the same tech. It's just utilizing all the SKUs and all the licensing that you have already been buying, because marketeers for the past 5 years have been on a buying frenzy. They have been armoring themselves with a lot of tech that is currently you picking up dust on the shelves, and the business cases of how to implement those, they are hard to sell, because you also need to prove some value. So really, how do you then attack that sort of sometimes giant elephant or huge beast that you need to really chop down into smaller bits, because it's tech and it's way of working around that, it doesn't remove you from the need to actually show business case and proof of value to the organization. So that's another aspect. How do you then go about starting to prove that?
Yeah. And in relation to that, and you mentioned business impact a couple of times.
Yeah.
When you come in and you look at this tech landscape that you enter, how much do you rely on the existing KPIs, and how much do you bring in your own idea of value into this? And is it even possible when you get into an organization that is fairly large?
Yeah. You also have a good point, because the size and the complexity of the organization, of course, it plays a role.
Yeah.
So let me see if I can translate, because you have like a Danish proverb that is "skynd dig langsomt." So it's like hurry up slowly.
Yeah.
So I think that's a nice way of looking at how to instigate or initiate your quote unquote transformation in that aspect. So how do you go about proving value and proving a difference in a controlled way? So that there's no magic trick to do that, and everything is dependent on the type of organization that you have and the mandates that are given. But even in a landscape where mandates can be unclear, or am I actually allowed to roam around in that area? Yeah. There are still areas that you can control and that you can perform your experiments on, and you are then starting to address some foundational questions. It's like, if I need to prove that, what do I then need in place? So and then it comes down to sort of that decision tree of saying, I want to prove that a better creative or a better customer experience can actually manifest itself in a better retention rate, or a better CSAT, customer satisfaction. And how do I go about proving that? That turns back to, do I have the data foundation to actually prove that? And the data foundation, is that just something that I provide, or can I play a part in establishing a full corporate data model? do we have that in place? But even then, try to break it down into areas that are then controlled, because otherwise you can risk losing the overall picture and getting lost in, but we don't have any data model, then we can't perform anything. So you should not get trapped into that.
No,
Still break it down to areas that can and actually be sort of controlled environments that can be more or less scientifically tested, and then you can scale from that.
Yeah.
And just move the needle even a bit more each time.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you as a CMO or senior marketeer, you don't hold the responsibility of creating a full data foundation. Obviously not. And that ties back to the importance of connecting to your CTO or CIO or CDO, or whatever role you may have in your organization, because they have such a huge task ahead of them. So to really respect the fact that it's such a hard job to create a strong data foundation and data model in any type of organization. And even when looking at where I'm right now, we have such a complex organization, and there's so many legacy bits of tech and data and production, and so it's a very large task, but it's something that you as a marketeer need to rally around and support and aid in the best way you can, so you can you help lay down the tracks, but also in your own way help the sort of the proof points behind the need for a full data model. That if you can establish some facts in your corner of the shop, then you are just helping the business, logic and the sort of the value that everyone needs to see behind having that really robust data foundation. So really getting those. I wouldn't say alliances, because that sounds so strategic, but it is just
yes, it is strategic to some point, right?
It is strategic, but it's not strategic in the sense that I need to play more with them, but just to be conscious about who you really need to support. Yeah, because they are really doing the hard labor and helping you actually perform better. Exactly. So it's a joint effort to lift the business. Yeah. Because when you did your initial work, the first part we talked about looking at the organization, then you see, okay, what are all the areas of the company that I, as a modern marketeer, envision that I can be affecting or helping, connecting, orchestrating. Then there are so many areas that are relying and dependent on a lift in maturity in terms of data quality. Yeah. Because obviously we not only us as a company, but any company, they haven't been built on a robust data foundation. They've been built on a great idea and a great way of listening to, your gut and understanding the market, understanding customers. Yeah. That has been great. But living in this VUCA world, it's a volatile, it's uncertain, it's complex, and it's ambiguous. Yeah. Then you need that trust in data. You need that trust in there's some logic actually flowing that I can base decisions on. And from that it just becomes like a natural adhesive to your specific business, existing business planning and business model. So that was a long detour.
No, but it's actually quite interesting, because what I'm hearing, and please correct me if I'm hearing it wrong, but like collecting, there are so much gold lying around in an organization where you come in as a new CMO, and realizing that and seeing how we can use it, but still having the vision for, can we mold some of these things into even more pretty jewelry by having the collaboration around that. That's very interesting, I think.
Yeah, I took note of what you said, that it's not the CMO job to create that data foundation, it's the CTO job. But I often see that it's the CMO taking the initiative for it, or taking, I don't want to call it a fight, I'm going to call it a fight with the CTO of getting access to the data needed for the data foundation, right? Yeah. But I like the idea that it's not the responsibility of the CMO, but I just often see that it's the CMO who has the biggest need for it, even if it's not in place.
Yeah, Yeah, and I think you're right about that. But I would like to sort of maybe coin it in a different way, because it's such a interdependent relationship, where often you, as the CMO, you can be the voice of the customer needs and the market the demands and and some of the internal organizations. You translate that into what do we then need. To your point, that we need it the most. But that's sort of the CMO and the CCO, if you have like a commercial officer as well. So those two joining hand in hand, or articulating the business needs. The CTO can, in a popular way, they can create anything. So much of the needed direction and guidance must come from the business part. And you need to be aware of what your business needs, and it shouldn't either be a binary thing. So if it only comes from the commercial part, then you will have sort of a strong but reduced logic. When you add the marketing capabilities of understanding what is actually surrounding the sort of mathematical and budgetary logic, then you really have that strong linkage that can really move the business, because there is so much more to play on than just price and content in whatever product that you are selling. So there's so many aspects that you need to translate into the business requirements when articulating. Okay, so what do we need? What are the most dominant aspects of? We understand that you want to work with, for instance, personalization, and that's sort of a prerequisite for our data model, that we must be able to activate it in that way. Okay, so what are the most important needs for you in terms of customer behavior? What sort of customer behavior? What signals do you want to pick up on? So once you've been doing your small laboratory tests, and once you've been experimenting, and once you've been able to establish something that you can say more or less for a fact now that is actually what moves the needle the most for you, then you have a clear way to actually make those demands into the data model. To say, okay, so it's that type of customer behavior that is actually more important for us, because that really needs to be super clear and super strong, and we need to rely on every aspect of our business when it intersects with that type of behavior. How can we then act on that?
That's such an important point, because this is the challenge for most, I think, because we come from the era, and it's been so much time, so it's almost transitioned in a different way. But we talked about big data. So the mindset that most of us have, or the most organizations have, is that the more data, the better. But I completely agree. Into the time that we're in now, it's about knowing what you're going to prove and having the data and the ability to prove that, which actually makes the task more simple if you know what you're doing. So I think it's a really interesting point, and that is really outspoken right now. But I think that many in your position are still struggling to get to the place they want to get it, because still the organization is requiring big data.
I heard a term in regards to collecting data, that we're not collecting data for building a library, right? And I think that's interesting thought as well. We need data for the KPIs and the journeys and insights we need, but we're not just collecting data for collecting it and building a library. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I want to come back to what you mentioned about, it's not the tech, it's about the right team. Because you had some fantastic results with Telmore and won an award at the Adobe Experience Makers.
Yes.
You didn't get on stage, Frederik.
I was too busy working at TV2.
But it doesn't change the fact that you played a key role in those results.
Yes.
What was the key ingredients? Was that the team, or was it a combination of the tech and what was the?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that as well, and what it and some of the sort of the key factors that I always come back to is really how we from the beginning. Obviously, we had a vision. Obviously, we had a hypothesis that could almost be called a vision. That personalization is a key component in moving our business. Okay, that we need to address.
Yeah.
And then I would say that we managed to really move from trying to make this a company-wide project from the get-go, going back to let's start where we can control things, where we're not trying to build something that's only logical for ourselves. It's still adhering to our business logic, so it can be replicated and scaled. But we're trying to move it to sort of an area of our business where we control the pace, and then pretty quickly moving from being very process-oriented to becoming extremely outcome-oriented. So focusing on those outcomes, translated into very dynamic roadmaps and very dynamic planning on, what do we then need to prove those use cases? And once those use cases have been proven, so it actually increases conversion rates when we are just having X amount instead of Y amount. Then we can add more use cases, and then I was blessed with having a pretty large part of the business that I could sort of maneuver around. So when we are talking in a subscription business with substantial volume in terms of turnover and also customers, then those results really very quickly translate into this is substantial business impact that we are then able to prove. So when you have a large customer base, the next logical thing was so if we want to really prove permanent business value, then that is how do we then affect our customer base? So again, having that sharp focus on being outcome oriented and having the right team, a relatively small core team dedicated to working with that and trying to implement that in their daily operations, made it like a seamless structure from traditional ways of working into actually weaving new ways of working into the new sort of operating model. And that I think is a key component to have that controlled environment and then being very outcome oriented. That played a key factor. And then of course I had a crazy competent team that were so keen and hungry, and that I didn't need to instill that hunger, because the hunger was there. We just needed sort of the boundaries and the guidance and the sort of you are allowed to play here, and that was my responsibility as a head of that to make that room. So there was time, space, money, and capabilities to actually do those things. So in my mind, that was the pivoting to becoming very outcome oriented, having clear processes for how to then move the needle there.
Yeah, I mean, I've been really impressed with how quickly and efficiently you turned, you got the results, right?
Yeah.
And I never thought of it like what you're saying right now, that you were outcome oriented. But as you're saying it now, I'm realizing that there's so many companies that isn't really focused on that outcome, right? It's just the operational bit.
Yes.
And it goes into this hamster wheel of just, we used to do this, we continue doing this, instead of focusing on what do we actually need to get as an outcome.
Yes.
So as I said, not something I've been thinking of, but I think when you mention it now, it's an eye-opener for me, that there's not enough focusing on the outcome.
Yes.
There's tons of excuses for, we don't have the budget, I don't have the team in place, or the tech isn't, functioning as I want it to function, or whatever, right? So I really like that.
Yeah, and it must also be very satisfying to see that being brave around the vision that you have succeeding?
Yes.
Because you've done it multiple times.
It was great to be validated that you can replicate things that you've been doing elsewhere and doing it once again in a different context, and then really proving that it is the people and it is the operation around the people. You can make most tech do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But asking the right questions, focusing on what moves the needle, and then once again, what are the outcomes that we are then building towards?
Yeah.
Nothing else, just that.
So what would be the key traits for the team? Like if you were to, if you didn't have a team today, what would be the key traits for making sure that you could, replicate it, the results from Telmore?
Oh, that's a good question, but obviously you could say that it is a team.
Yeah.
So what makes a team in the first place? So going back to, okay, it's not really capabilities but it's the mindset, and it's the trust that we are actually working towards a unified goal. And that also comes back to what's the kind of leadership that I instill? What's the kind of space and place and pace that I then make happen?
Yeah.
So if you are able to articulate, okay, what, why, and when, and what's the reward lying at the end of the rainbow? Is there a pot of gold, or what does that then look like? And motivating your competent group around you. So there's no real. You don't need someone who is then hardcore.
You don't have a list of.
It's not SQL yada yada. It's the team, and then you fill in the blanks from there, because obviously your team will be well versed in operating in the standard way that your business then were, and then you need to say, okay, then we need to do it with new kinds of bits and pieces from the tech that we are not accustomed to. Okay, then how many consulting hours do we then need to fill that gap for us to be able to handle that ourselves? Not in a permanent way, but you need that team to want to adopt those capabilities. So that you now have a senior automation marketeer that is then growing in competencies. That is reflected in the satisfaction of going to work. That is affecting so many people around them, because they are now part of a movement or something that is actually moving the business into the future. So really be careful about outsourcing too much. That is potential future business, core future business capabilities. So learning new acts, new traits, getting your fingers dirty, or getting the dirt under your nails, and then respecting the fact that this is your future business that you are now growing.
That's interesting. Before wrapping up, just what trends or shifts in marketing are you seeing? I mean, everybody's talking about AI these days, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Is AI playing a big role in what you're doing at TV2 today?
It's something that is being addressed constantly. So obviously everyone needs to have a point of view on that, and so I would say the future. I mean, it's I can only return to the point where trust is so paramount, especially for us when you ask us or ask me about TV2, because trust is paramount for us. We have so much time being spent in communities and in areas that we don't play an active part in. And in those areas, the lines between what is real, what is not real, and what's important, what's not important, though we really need to understand what our what we need to survive on, and we cannot survive without trust. So in terms of what does the future look like, it's so complex, and I return to sort of the VUCA. So it's very uncertain, and it's super complex, It's very ambiguous as well, because where to go and what media can I trust, and what are the consumer behaviors that I'm now depending on, and can AI help me with some of those problems potentially? But it can never be part of something that creates a lack of trust. It can never be it can never be the answer to any business problem that I have, where it deteriorates my future customer potential. So maybe different from many other business that can easily see so many use cases where they can scale. I can also see some internal ways of working, obviously, where AI can help me, or even sophisticated automation that it's. So of course, in the daily operations, there are multiple areas where it can be more efficient and yada yada. But what faces the customers, that we really need to be very cautious around, because they need to trust whatever they see from Rasmus Tantholdt at the news, or so we can never risk that.
Yeah. What would excuse me? What would be one piece of advice you would give to yourself if you could go back in time before your first CMO job?
But actually, it's still the same. Skynd dig langsomt, hurry up slowly, because I was very, very bad at that. I was super obviously ambitious, but I was also eager to get moving. Yeah. And many times I've missed the mark and I've moved too fast and not really respected the value that I was about to create, and I was moving along. Okay. So that's one part that
slow down and
actually then try to lift your perspective. Okay, what are the implications of what I'm doing? Stop looking so short-sighted. Remain long-term in your vision, and elevate sort of the importance that you actually have, because we are so eager to show results that we must also respect the fact that when you are talking to your CEO or the board or anyone else, they need that elevated look on what's the magnitude of the problem or the magnitude of the solution that you're actually working on. Yeah. So lift the conversation and hurry up slowly. So that's sort of the thing that I would pass on to
I think that's an advice that goes across all roles.
Exactly.
Not just the CMO, right?
Exactly.
Lastly, Frederik, what are you most proud of in your career?
Oh, I think I think it's it comes back to all the people that I've been fortunate enough to work with, seeing that whatever projects or relationships that we've been having, that it's actually been sort of a catalyst for change and development, and seeing people really happy about working on big projects that have propelled them into new roles or new aspects of their own career, because that I learn from that, and I grow as a person myself when I can see that I'm actually able to not only move businesses but also move people. Yeah. So the business that's fantastic, but it's the people around it that I get to. I'll meet them once again elsewhere, and they can also then affect other businesses and other people when we have those valuable, insightful, meaningful relationships that then gets passed on.
Yeah, I can totally recognize that. It makes me so proud when we can have consultants who move into a bigger role at a company, right?
Exactly.
And see their development, and that we've been playing a part in whatever career that they're going to be having, right? So I can definitely relate to that. Frederik, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for
being here. You're a true inspiration, and I truly believe that everyone watching here will feel the same.
Thank you.
It's very inspiring. Yeah.
Thanks, Frederik.
Thank you.